Thank you for joining us at the Roundtable.
Brought to you by Community Education Arts, a nonprofit organization based in Noblesville, Indiana.
I'm Alice Cavanagh-Scober, president of CEArts.
And I'm Sarah E. Morin, secretary of CEArts. Let's sit down
at the Roundtable.
It is really, we are fortunate. We live in the internet era. We live in this digital age where we can see each other, even if we can't hug each other and be physically close, we can see each other. So
right. And I think one of the things that I'd like to delve into today that you and I were discussing planning this podcast is that dichotomy between this COVID-19 is devastating for professional artists, but there are a few bright sides on what amateur artists and hobbyists are able to do. I see, like my friends on Facebook, the poets, they traditionally do put their own poems up there, but now we're all on Facebook almost all the time, commenting, engaging, and so I see more creativity, more interaction with what is out there than I did maybe a month ago. And I think some people are using poems as a form of escapism, like let me create something, anything but the coronavirus. And other people are directly addressing it. Like you wrote a poem where it was this ironic analogy between the spring bloom of the flowers and the spring bloom of the virus.
Yeah, that was actually one of my more positive poems. I've written some really maudlin, depressing, COVID-19 inspired poetry just because of all that stuff I was going through myself about my own health problems and the fear. I mean, I don't want to talk about the fear because it's overwhelming. I do get paralyzed when I really think about what this disease could do to my lungs, what this particular virus could do. It's very scary. But I think I agree with you. I think on social media, it's so funny because you see this blend from all the artists and creatives that we know, whether they're musicians, writers, or visual artists, and this blend of humor and pathos and fear. I mean, every emotion that, we know as creative people that emotion is what drives your art, but to see, the willingness for all these people to put out their innermost emotions, good, bad, ugly, funny, whatever, is really, it's bad pun, it's blooming, it's burgeoning. I don't know what words to use. But
one of my favorites that I saw was David Allen's parody of James Wickham Riley, The Little Orphan Annie, the Goblins will get you. It's like, the coronavirus will get you if you don't watch out. And he posted a picture of himself peeking out of the door. So some people are using art and humor to deal. Some people are using it to process the negative parts of emotion, and art always has an important role in that. I see within artists of all different stripes, the desire between a lot of them to use their art to help the situation. Like a couple of famous examples I can think of. Patrick Stewart, as an actor, is reading a sonnet a day just to keep us all calm. Andrew Lloyd Webber is airing one of his musicals every couple days, and they're free. J.K. Rowling is doing some free Harry Potter resources for teachers and school children to use. And people in smaller organizations, not talking to the celebrities now, are doing things like offering free lessons. Some things from my own life. I was part of the Religion, Spirituality, and the Arts exhibit, and we had 2 exhibits lined up. The first one happened February, no problem. We were supposed to have a second exhibit in a different location. That has been indeterminately postponed. We'll see what happens. And so as an alternative, it was hosted at the Jewish Community Center, and so they are offering not only to us, those artists involved in that exhibit, but also to some other creative people. Okay, let's let you sign up for a slot on their Facebook page, and you can go on Facebook Live and you can teach a lesson. And so some people are doing an exhibit that way. Is it the same as doing in person? No. For example, what I created doesn't really translate into that format, but it's also a good way to still have some sort of connectivity.
And also for people who haven't ever done that before, it gives them a little bit of training in how to do that on Facebook, like a live thing, interactive, lesson in-person thing. I've never done that. So, I mean, you know, I think that's wonderful that those opportunities are, you know, popping up. It's, you know, I think that arts-related organizations and artists are definitely trying to do more digital content, which we, as community education arts, have been doing for a while now.
Right, yeah.
I mean, before all this pandemic stuff, we were ahead of the curve. Oh, don't talk about curves.
No.
But, you know, yeah. But we were doing our online arts showcase exhibits, for example, which, you know, every couple months we have a new theme, and we encourage people to send in, you know, artwork, whether it's photography or pictures of their paintings or poetry or prose or even music, you know, music files or video files. And we're still doing those. We still have our online exhibits. As a matter of fact, April 9th, is it the 9th yet? No, today's the 3rd. April 9th is the deadline for the Spring Fancies submissions. We've already got some on.
Submit.
Yes, I've already got some up there on the website, but you can email info@CEArts.org, email your files, and we'll get them up there. So, yeah. Anyway, so we do that. We've been doing our podcast recordings. We're keeping up with that pretty well. This is our first foray into the more virtual end of it. But so I think we're doing what we can, and I know that a lot of other arts organizations and artists are working with digital content more than they used to. And I do want to say, before I forget, and I will forget things, is that, you know, the challenges of quickly trying to get savvy with doing the more virtual digital content stuff. I mean, we had the luxury as our little 501c3. I spent most of the winter, the last late summer and early fall, I spent most of that time, you know, figuring out what software, what programs to use. And then by late fall, early winter, we were recording, we were doing it, we were, you know, but I mean, I had that luxury of all that time to kind of get software and programs that I became comfortable with and that we could use. And, you know, here we are, you know, with this pandemic stuff, people are overnight seeing their incomes as artists just gone, and trying to, you know, come up with ways to do that. So I feel for them, and I certainly hope and wish them all the best in going digital.
Right. And it's been interesting in, yes, because a lot of people are having to get tech savvy very quickly, like you said. There's this kind of homegrown spirit. It's like a grassroots spirit. And so some of these things are not as professional quality that they might be. And if you are known as a professional, you might get kind of insulted for, well, why? It's not up to your usual standard. But I also see a lot of openness with people who don't normally create in that way are now trying it, and they are less willing to criticize themselves and just put it out there, even if it's not polished to the nth degree. And so it does also have the other spirit of a grassroots movement, which is interesting.
And that's very cool, because I think I know when I was first trying to figure out how we could do podcasts and all that, I mean, it seems like podcasts have been very popular for quite a long time. And I didn't know anything about it. How do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? You know, and finding equipment and, you know, recording with a quality that I felt people would want to actually hear and all that stuff. I mean, we're by no means perfect, but that was very stressful, because I felt very intimidated by the fact that it seemed like everybody and their brother could have a podcast easily, and here it was so hard for me to figure out, you know. But I really do encourage people to just play around with different software and different mediums of digital, like Zoom. I mean, this is the second time I've interacted with someone on Zoom. You were the first time when we did just privately kind of talking to each other. But Zoom is new to me, so, you know, we'll see. You know, and yet people have been using Zoom for a long time, I guess, with business meetings and stuff. So I think there's a lot out there, even Facebook and stuff with the events and everything. If organizations or artists had in-person things scheduled, like the exhibit you were talking about with RSA, you know, that in-person exhibit is being changed to something more, you know, digitally friendly on Facebook. And we're going to have to look at that for our NICE workshops this year. You know, we'll talk about later. But, you know, originally we had those scheduled at the local library. And, you know, I just don't see those happening as soon as August is the first one is scheduled in August. And I, like I was joking to you in our little private conversation, even if unless a vaccine is created before August, I won't be at the library, so I don't think anybody's going to be at the library, but, we'll see what we come up with for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some of the collected ways that I found, the ways that organizations are trying to adapt to more digital content: online music lessons, online concerts. I saw a high school that put together, they were all Zooming, singing their individual parts, and the director was directing them on Zoom, and they actually did a concert that way.
Wow.
Writing groups for kids who are out of school because parents who are trying to work from home and need resources, that's very helpful to them. Art tutoring, dance lessons are even going online. I think that's really challenging.
Yeah, anything performance-y has got to be very challenging.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny Kalahar, one of our poet friends and a prolific author, is putting together a collaborative poem, and basically she just, all right, you write 4 to 6 lines, and then it goes to the next person, and she just keeps sending it on and on and on. And so we should have a lovely result soon to admire.
We're going to have an epic. Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be an epic.
Yes. Doing virtual open mics, you had mentioned.
Yeah.
And so, we encourage artists to put yourself out there, but do be prepared for any time you put something on social media. There is the risk of commentary that may be positive or negative. And so if you don't want to have any of that kind of feedback either way, you do have on some platforms controls to maybe turn off comments if you're like, I don't even want to risk somebody criticizing me. I
don't know why in the world someone would even want to post something negative in this day and age, especially with all the stuff going on. But they are. I've seen a lot of negative posts under, for example, the open mic sessions that a lot of my musician friends are doing, and someone will post something about, we don't do it with, recorded music here. Well, there's a lot of great singers out there who don't play an instrument.
Yeah.
And now they're isolated. They can't get together with their band, and maybe they don't have the Zoom directing thing, multiple people, and so they were just putting a song out there to a soundtrack that was, pre-recorded music, and got slammed. And I'm like, you know what? I love original music. Don't get me wrong. I love it when somebody picks up their guitar or their piano, or picks up their piano, you know what I mean? Plays their instrument and sings their own song. But, let's be nice to, let's be a little more understanding and grateful that they're willing to record themselves singing something, even if it is to a more karaoke style, music part. I feel like we need to, I don't understand why they would be negative, but they're out there. So forewarned is forearmed. Turn off those comments, delete them, block them, whatever,
Right. And
don't be afraid to share.
Be kind as a consumer of art, because everybody is dealing with less than ideal conditions right now.
Exactly. And in the normal, history of the world, art is subjective anyway. All art is subjective. You can't please everybody, So do it for yourself, put it out there, and set it free. And that's the best we can hope for, right? But you're right. There are a lot of platforms that will let you actually just turn off comments, and then you really are putting it out there, just freeing yourself. You've expressed it. It's out there, and as we've always known, things on the internet never go away. So it's out there for the rest of history, or at least as long as the internet lasts, So do it. That's a good thing to do.
Great. I guess I would just like to add some, as we kind of move into the impact of the arts in general because of this virus. Some of these changes that are being made, like, for example, my husband Spike had some in-person acting classes. Well, that had to be canceled / postponed.
He was teaching.
Teaching, yes, teaching. And so then him looking at options like, can I teach online? And also balancing that I want to do something for free for the good of the community, but also I was getting paid.
This has been At the Round Table with Alice
and Sarah E.
of Community Education Arts.
Our nonprofit organization is based in Noblesville, Indiana. You can find us online at CEArts.org.
This activity made possible in part with support from the Indiana Arts Commission and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.
We'd like to thank James Weston for writing our intro music and for his technical savvy.
Join us next time
at the Round Table.